Steph Curry and the Warriors or Kobe? What's the bigger story in your mind?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. I appreciate little Sugar Mags coming in. I appreciate the compliment. So let me take you behind the scenes of NBA TV last night. Working with producer Matt Kane and Dennis Scott, Vinny Del Negro. Man, did we have a good time last night. I've been there 14 years. That is the hottest, most electric, most intense, most unbelievable night I've ever been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot of them. I've been covering finals since 2004. That's as good as it's ever gotten for me. So initially our rundown, we had 73-9, Steph's pursuit of 400 threes, leading off. It was alone in the A block. And then last night happens, and Kobe steals the show. We opened the show last night with Kobe. The back half of the A block was the Warriors. If Kobe scores 50, do we flip-flop the A block? I don't know. Kobe scores 60, forced our hand. Yes, Kobe in his final game stole the show from the 73-9 Warriors. What the hell?
Rick, it's unbelievable. I mean, and really everywhere you go, they're talking more about Kobe. You see their highlights first. You see what Kobe did first. It was truly magical. And I think part of that, Rick, might have been the Warriors' fault for not making that game competitive. That was a foregone conclusion. Let's start with Kobe then. Does the 50 shots make any difference to you, Rick, whatsoever? Because I know I've seen on Twitter some people saying, yeah, but he took 50 shots.
They're haters. That's just plain and simple. They're haters. Byron Scott said before the game, we're going to try to get him the ball every time down the court. He said it. That was the coach's game plan for the game. Every player on the team wanted to feed Kobe. And he's fifth on my all-time list, okay? Third all-time in scoring, 5 rings. A lot of people claim him as the greatest of all time. I think those people are millennials. I think they're out of their minds. I think they need to watch some more old-school basketball. He's one of the all-time greats, but he's not the great. I think that's a coin flip that lands on Jordan for me between Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Jordan. But those are haters. Anybody saying, it took him 50 shots to get 60 points. The guy has played 20 years. He's 37. He's, in the last 3 years, overcome a ruptured Achilles, a broken knee, and a ruptured labrum in his right shoulder. By the way, that's his shooting shoulder. So I'm not listening to that at all. Those are just haters.
We're talking with Rick Campbell. Does a really nice job for NBA TV and Turner Sports. Can you think, Rick, of a better final performance for an NBA player?
I don't know if I can think of a better final performance by anybody in any sport. Peyton Manning just got the chip on his way out, but Peyton Manning was along for the ride. He admitted it. We watched the games. We all saw it. And this is not a championship. This is the worst season in Lakers history. But to me, the previous 81 games are all washed away with what we saw last night. Nobody thought the Lakers were going to be good. Essentially, it was a very, very quiet tank. And I'm not, accusing them of anything, but they weren't going out there with heavy metal. They weren't trying to win, because if the Lakers finish, 4 through 14 in the lottery, the pick goes to Philadelphia. If they're 1, 2, or 3, the pick stays in L.A. So you guys tell me. Anyway, I just think that it's by far the best closing game in NBA history. John Havlicek had the previous all-time NBA high of 29 in a final career game, and Kobe more than doubled that up.
Rick, I felt like, especially at the end, I felt like the Jazz were playing Kobe pretty tough. I felt like they were contested shots, and I felt like the fact that he finished with such a flourish and needed to do that to win really adds to the legacy. I mean, people that just hear Kobe had 60 and the Lakers won, it doesn't do it justice in my mind if you didn't actually watch and see how it went down. Would you agree?
I totally agree, and it's one of the marquee matchups on NBA TV today. I think Kobe's game is at 1, and the Dubs game is at 3 Eastern. It might be noon and 2, but check your listings for NBA TV if you want to watch the Kobe game again, because we're airing it again this afternoon. If you watched it, your jaw dropped. Me and Dennis Scott and Vinny Del Negro last night were like children. We were like, oh, my God, I can't believe he hit another one. Oh, my God. And everybody in the studio was insane. It was absolute insanity. Look, they tried Sheldon Mack on him. They tried Gordon Hayward on him. They tried Trey Lyles on him to put a longer dude on him. He just kept making shots. It was vintage Kobe. I mean, he, a few dribbles into that sort of elbow area to get that shot off, like the game winner hit against Phoenix. He was hitting step back threes. It was just awesome, man. Absolutely awesome. And Kobe Bryant at the podium last night he had I can't believe I just did that tone to him, and I thought it was really cool.
Talking with Rick Kamla, NBA TV. Let's transition, Rick, to the Warriors. I guess I want to start with Steph Curry and the three-point record. I mean, I can't think of any other guy in any other sport, maybe Jerry Rice, but to obliterate a record like that, try to put that in some perspective for me. Is there any comparison you can make?
Yeah, I think Barry Bonds' home run record. I think it's up there with – look, Steph last year set the record at 286. He hit 402 this year, and he did not play in the fourth quarter of 18 or 19 games because they were such blowouts. Just deal with those numbers for a minute. Stephen Curry last night, it was his 16th game this year with 8 or more threes. Anybody, and I don't care if you're talking about an old-school Hall of Fame basketball player, and I certainly don't know more about basketball than those brilliant people, but I think if you're holding on to Steph is not the best shooter of all time, you're kind of in the hater zone. I think you're sipping on the haterade a little bit. Nobody has made 300 threes. He just made 400. His percentage on threes from 30 or more feet this year, 19 of 40. Okay, Bird, as awesome as he was, couldn't do that. Kevin Durant, who is arguably, in the top 4 3 shooters in our game right now, can't do that. Nobody can do that. Only Stephen Curry can do that.
Rick, what do guys like Dennis Scott and Vinny Del Negro, who you're with all the time, where do they stand on how the Warriors would have done back in the day? I mean, those are a couple old heads. Those guys were in the NBA back when I was watching. Where do they stand? It seems like, you talk about haters, it seems like a lot of those guys that played in the 80s and the 90s hate on the Warriors all the time.
Well, those two guys in particular do not, but I totally agree with what you're saying. You hear a lot of the guys that played in the 80s and the 90s and even the 70s saying, they're just a jump shooting team and all this kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if those old cats are actually watching all of these games because the action that Steve Kerr runs, the way Golden State plays defense, they get paint points. They're a fast-breaking, swashbuckling, Showtime and the New Millennium team. I don't think some of the old heads are watching enough of these Warriors because if they were watching them, they would just be like I watch the Warriors and I'm just like, stop it. Just stop it. It's to that point. You're just like, come on. I mean, like Buddy Hield in the NCAA tournament, in that Oregon game. It's like, dude, just stop it. You're too good. And that's what the Warriors are right now. But a lot of people don't want to recognize that. And again, they're sipping on haterade.
Rick, what about moving forward into the playoffs now, the Warriors? Can anybody beat them? If so, who and how?
I don't think anybody's going to get them this year. If San Antonio had home court advantage, I might pick the Spurs, but San Antonio proved they can't hang with GSW at Oracle Arena. And, 2 losses there this year, 1 to Boston, 1 to Minnesota, during a spell where I thought Golden State was really physically and mentally fatigued, and they won't be in the playoffs right now. I do think Warriors Spurs will be the Western Finals. I do think it's going 7, but I think the Warriors are going to win. And I think we'll play Cleveland in the NBA Finals and probably beat them in 6.
Wow. So you think it's going 7 with San Antonio and 6 with Cleveland? All right. So good. They won't waltz through the playoffs. You think it'll be a very competitive series? I like it.
Well, I think they might waltz until then.
Right.
I think Houston might get a game. I think the Clippers, who match up well with Golden State, there's a hatred rivalry there. If that's a second-round series, I can't wait. The Clippers might get 2 games off of them. I'll give the Clippers that credit. The Clippers ain't beating them, I'll tell you that.
Rick, really appreciate the time and getting your thoughts on what was a historic night in the association last night. Thanks, Rick.
Hey, anytime, man. Call me.
All right, there he is, Rick Kamla from NBA TV.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.